What's poppin', y'all? It's KernelTommy with episode 2 on my journey to being a God-tier programmer. Before I start, I want to say I started streaming on Twitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Come join, chat, hang out with me because I get awfully lonely with my 1 or 2 viewers, which are usually my friends. But, anyways, that's another problem. Let's get to this problem, shall we? Um, so, we got the mini max sum today. So, I'll start off by reading it off to you, just in case it's hard to see. So, we got given 5 positive integers. Find the minimum and maximum values that can be calculated by summoning exactly 4 of the 5 integers. Then, print the respective minimum maximum values as a single line of 2 space separated long integers. Long integers being important. So here's the example array. So this one has 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. The minimum sum is 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7, which is 16. The max sum is 3, 5, 7, 9, which would be 24. And then it prints 16 and 24. So on to the function description. We got the complete minimax sum function in the editor below. Minimax sum has the following parameters: an array of 5 integers. Then it's going to print 2 space integers on one line, the minimum sum and the maximum sum of 4 of 5 elements. And then the input format is a single line of 5 space separated integers. So the constraints for the numbers of the array would be each number is going to be greater than or equal to 1, but also less than or equal to 10 to the ninth power. So the output format is print 2 space separated long integers denoting the respective minimum and maximum values that can be calculated by summing exactly 4 of the 5 integers. The output can be greater than 32-bit integer. So what this is trying to tell you is you cannot use just the normal int for it because it's only 32 bits. So you want the long type integer, which is 64 bits. So this is some sample input. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The sample output is 10 and 14. So what is going on here is taking 4 of these numbers and adding it together to get a sum. And it's doing that with different numbers each time. So here's the explanation down here. So the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it basically iterates it through it 5 times since there's only 5 different integers. Each time it skips one of the numbers. So for instance, it starts off by summing everything except 1. So, sum 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is 14. Then sum everything but 2, which would be 13. Sum everything but 3. And then sum everything except 4. And then sum everything except 5. So, that's all the sums it produces. So, this sum would be the greatest, and this would be the max sum, and the 10 would be the min sum. So that's how they get the minimum and the maximum output right there. So let's go ahead and tackle this problem, shall we? So before we start doing anything, we need a place to hold these sums. So, like I said earlier, we're not going to be using ints because that's only 32-bit. We need longs, which are 64-bit. So long, and then let's do min sum. All right. So we need. Normally, I like to put it as 0 because it's initialized 0. But if I put it as 0, the minimum are going to be less than 0 or less than 1. So if I put 0, then the min sum, and then try and check to see each sum if it's less than the min sum, it's going to be 0 each time because I put it at 0. So instead, for the min sum, we need to do a very long, like pretty much the max number. So that way, we can check to see if there's anything less than the max possible number. So let's do long dot I believe it's max underscore value. So that gets the maximum value a long can produce. And then caps lock still on. So we got max sum for variable for our max sum, which it cannot be less than 1. So all right. And then we need a placeholder to hold our sums each time we iterate. So we need something to hold a value. So let's do a temp sum, and we can put this one just as 0. All right, you guys see that okay? Let me scroll down a little bit more for you. All right, so here, let's start off with our loop. So we're going to do for int I equals 0. The I will be less than 5. I plus plus. Okay, gonna be basically these 5 iterations right here. It basically summed up how we're going to be solving this right here. So these are 5 different iterations where it summed everything up. So we need to sum the array up 5 times. But if I, for instance, summed everything up right now, it would only sum it up once. So we need a second for loop. So let's do another for loop. Let's do j for the iteration variable, and we'll put 0 again. Then while j is less than 5, j plus plus. And the reason I'm doing 5 for each one is because there's only 5 numbers in the array, and the array is going to be starting off at 0. So that's why it's less than. So the positions would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So now this is kind of the tricky part. How do we skip a number each time? So the way I see it is if we do an if statement, we can check to see if I equals is not, we can see if j is not equal to I. Now, the reason why it's j and I is because if you think about it, these are the positions in the array. So let's just walk through the first loop just so we can understand what's going on here. So I is going to be 0, okay? And then we're going to go through the next for loop, and j is going to be 0. So they're both 0 currently. So if we set it equal j not equal to I, so this will only happen when these two are not the same number. So right now, they're not going to be, it will not get into this for loop or this if statement during this iteration because they're both equal to 0. So it will skip it. And then it will come back to this for the j for loop, and it will increase it by 1. So j will be equal to 1. So I will still be equal to 0. So it will get into the if statement. See, we just essentially skipped the first number, which is exactly what we're doing up here in the first iteration. We are skipping 1, which is the first number, which would be at position 0. So that's exactly what we're doing here. So with that if statement, we need to sum. Now we just need to start adding up our numbers. So that's when we're going to do temp sum plus equals, and we need the number at that position. So we're going to do array dot get, and let's do j. Not I, because that would be this one. And it would just sum up whatever is at I is at each time, which should not be good. So we want j, because that's the one we're actually going through and summing each of it each time. This loop is just summing the array each time. This loop is the number, the I array is the number of times we are summing the array. So let me actually put a comment here just so you guys can, you guys don't get confused here. So this is number of times array is summed. I can't remember if it's two M's or one. Sorry, I am a programmer, not a speller. And then this is number. This is just, this sums the array. All right. So now that we got it summing it, so basically once this is done, it sums the array once. All right. Well, our temporary sum value now has the sum of the array where it skips one of the numbers. So what do we do now? Well, we need to determine if it's a min sum or the max sum. So we actually need to check for both. So first, we're going to do if. Sorry, I should explain this. We want to be outside the J for loop because we're going to be checking. If not, we're going to be checking for each time we add a number to the sum. We don't want that. We want it after we got a full sum of the array. So we want to do it after the J for loop. So let's do an if, and then let's check if temp sum is less than min sum. Why less than? Because we want the smallest possible value for min sum. So if our so right now our min sum is the maximum value a long integer can be. So let's just say our sum we got was 15. It would be less than that maximum value. So since it is less than the minimum sum, we want to set that as our new min sum. So let's set min sum equal to temp sum. So now the minimum value would be 15. So then after that, it would loop back over, sum up the array again, and say if the sum came up as, for instance, 12, it would check if 12 is less than 15, which it would be. So it would set the min sum to 12. See that I'm explaining all of this because it helps a lot when you actually talk through what your code does. Because if you don't, it looks very confusing just staring at it. So that's why you need to work it out and actually figure out what you're actually programming. Because if you don't understand what's going on, it's very hard to figure out what you need to do next. So we got our temp sum going. That's basically it for that. So now we got a temp sum. But what about our max sum? What if it's a very large number that would need to be our max sum? So let's do another if statement where if our temp sum is greater than our max sum. So since we're checking for greater than, for instance, so our max sum is 0. Say our first sum that we get is 10. 10 would be greater than 0, so it set the max sum as 10. we need to do this separately because the min sum and the max sum could possibly be the same. It could be different. So we're gonna check it each time to see if it's a min sum or a max sum. Potentially, it could change. So let's put max. So if it is greater than our max sum, we set max sum equal to temp sum. All right. Now it seems like we're done, right? But there's a fatal flaw in this code. So after we check for min and max, it's gonna loop back in here and set it. Say this is our second iteration, so it would be I would equal 1 now, and it's gonna go through and sum the array again. But what's gonna happen? Well, our temp sum is still the same. It has not changed. So if it was 15 the first iteration, temp sum's still going to be 15, and it's going to keep adding to it over and over and over again, and it's just going to become a very large number that's not what we want. We want to reset it each time we loop through the array and sum everything up. So we simply need to put temp sum equals 0 again after we check to see if it's possible min or max sum. So I believe this should work for us. Let's try running it to see if it actually. Oh, see, this is why we check first. What did I do wrong? Well, let's look at the output here. So this is your input. This is my output. There's no response. And the expected is 10 and 4. I didn't print them out. So we simply just need to do system.out.println, and then we do, let's add just empty quotations since they're integers or longs. So this, it needs to be min sum first, I believe, and let's add a space in between, and then we're gonna do max sum. Semicolon, of course. All right, so let's run this again, see if it works. Woohoo! All right, it passed the sample test, but can it pass all the test cases they have? Suspense. Woohoo! We did it. All right. Well, there you have it. That's our mini maximum problem. That wasn't too bad, I hope. Um, as you can see, it really does help talking through the problems. Um, it helps me by doing this because it forces me to talk through it, so that way I can help you and myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Um, I'm gonna hopefully have more coming out more frequently. I wasn't feeling too good last week, but then more should be coming out soon. And then if not, if you got any free time and you want to check out my Twitch channel, that would be awesome. But for now, Colonel Tommy signing off.